What if Sakumo Hatake, the White Fang of the Leaf Village, hadn't died, guys? What do you think would have happened? And let me tell you, young Grasshopper, a lot, and I mean a lot of things in the Naruto world would have turned out completely different. Let's get into it, but first I need to explain what the situation was like when Sakumo passed away. Well, back then, my friend, it was all gunfire, chaos, and explosions, literally right in the middle of one of the great ninja wars. In fact, at that time, Orochimaru, Tsunade, and Jiraiya were already known as the Legendary Sannin of the Leaf. Like, just imagine that. This was when Jiraiya and Orochimaru were at the peak of their power. And at that time, Sakumo was indeed recognized as a ninja even more powerful than the three legendary Sannin. Man, just picture that. Easily, Sakumo was either on the same level or very close to the level of old man Sarutobi, who, back then, was the young and badass Sarutobi. But now that we understand just how powerful Sakumo was, and how things were going in the anime, with Konoha at war, the whole world at war, let's talk about everything that would have changed if Sakumo Hatake had stayed alive. To start with, guys, we can say with absolute certainty that Kakashi, as he got older, would have definitely become way stronger than he already was. So, another major event that happens after Sakumo's death is Orochimaru's betrayal, when Konoha finds out what he was up to. Sarutobi goes to confront him, finds out the truth, and catches Orochimaru in the act, but Orochimaru gets away because Sarutobi didn't want to stop him, something Sakumo would never have let happen, my friend. And as soon as he found out about it, you can be sure he would have gone after Orochimaru. And honestly, without a doubt, he was more powerful than Orochimaru at that time. But, however, nevertheless, considering that Orochimaru wouldn't fight Sakumo to win, but rather just to escape, I do think that even if he took a serious beating and almost died, Orochimaru might still have managed to get away from Sakumo so he could survive and keep doing his little experiments out there as a fugitive, right? After that situation, another major event that happens is the succession from the third to the fourth Hokage. In the original timeline, since Sakumo had already passed away, Minato took over. But in this case, with Sakumo still alive, I can guarantee that the ninja who would succeed Sarutobi would actually be Sakumo Hatake, the White Fang of Konoha. At this point, we would have Sakumo as Hokage, with Sarutobi and Minato as his right-hand man, right? Minato especially, and Sarutobi serving as an advisor, helping out in the village, basically, 3 heavyweights supporting the village, when before there were only 2, right? Then we had Obito's attack on Konoha. At that moment, what would the village be like? Minato would be there with Kushina during the childbirth to protect her. Sakumo would have assigned other ninjas there, kind of like what actually happened, because even though Minato was the Hokage in the anime, he was still there at Kushina's delivery, but Obito still manages to infiltrate and kidnap Kushina, taking Naruto as a hostage, right? So, in order to save Naruto, Minato kind of had to let Obito take Kushina. And then what happens? While Minato was saving Naruto there and took Kushina, right, he quickly manages to take the fox away from Kushina and make her start causing destruction in the village, right? But what would my theory be? It's that with Sakumo in the village, Obito wouldn't have that little bit of freedom to extract the fox from Kushina. So possibly Sakumo would have stopped that, and Obito would have had to run away, or if Sakumo hadn't arrived in time and Obito actually managed to extract the fox, controlling the fox with Sarutobi, Sakumo, and Fugaku, who was still alive at that time, if I'm not mistaken, would have been much easier than it was with basically just Sarutobi and Fugaku. In that case, Obito would have to face Minato again, but even so, with Sakumo there, I believe things would have turned out better and Minato could have actually survived that attack. And my friend, thinking about it this way, in that scenario Konoha would already be much stronger than it was in the original anime. And then we would already have the addition of Sakumo and Minato, since neither of them would have died, and Kakashi would be even stronger because he would have been trained by Sakumo himself, right? And with that, I'd even say that Guy Sensei would also be stronger than he already was, because look, Guy was Kakashi's rival, so the stronger Kakashi got, the stronger Guy would have to be to keep up with him. So, my friend, to keep up with Kakashi, Guy would definitely have to get even stronger than he already was. So after that, we have the Uchiha Massacre event, and I'll tell you, with Sakumo as Hokage, Sarutobi as his advisor, Minato as his right-hand man, and Itachi infiltrated among the Uchiha, my friend, let me tell you, the Uchiha wouldn't be crazy enough to try a revolt, not just them, you know? They'd have to, just chill out, keep things calm. So at this point, just imagine what Konoha would be like. Sarutobi, Minato, Sakumo, Itachi, Fugaku, who would still be around, even if he was a bit wary. A stronger Kakashi, a stronger guy, Shisui would still be alive. Man. And in this case, in this situation, we'd also have two other ninjas who would be even more powerful than they already were. The level of destruction would be huge. Sasuke and Naruto would be even more powerful than they already were, each being trained respectively, Naruto by Minato, the Yellow Flash of Konoha, one of the strongest ninjas in history, and Sasuke being trained directly by Itachi, who hardly needs any introduction either. By the time they got to Kakashi, they would already be way more powerful than they were before, and Kakashi too, so the power levels would just keep skyrocketing. On that very first mission with Team 7 against Zabuza, Naruto, Sasuke, and Kakashi would easily defeat Zabuza without any trouble, assuming Zabuza had the same power level we saw, right? That mission would have been solved easily, and Haku would end up kind of lost since his whole purpose in life was to help Zabuza. But after Zabuza died, he'd have to wander around looking for a new purpose, and he'd probably end up becoming a really good person, since, honestly, Haku was a good person, right? He only did those things because of Zabuza. In the Chunin exams, Naruto and Sasuke would pass easily because of their new power level, along with Shikamaru. Then we get to Orochimaru's attack on Konoha. In this case, you might even think, no way, Orochimaru wouldn't be crazy enough. With all these top-tier guys in the village, would he really attack? No way! But I'm telling you, yes, there would be a chance for Orochimaru to pull off this attack if he teamed up with Obito and the rogue Uchiha clan members. Man, just imagine the chaos. Orochimaru's attack together with Obito, Fugaku, and all the rebellious Uchiha. We'd finally have the Uchiha uprising happening at the same time as Orochimaru's attack, along with Obito's assault, but on the other hand, there'd only be a handful of people left in Konoha, right? Minato, Fugaku and Itachi, Shisui, a beastly Kakashi, a beastly guy, and Sarutobi who is still alive. These are all Hokage level, right? And then, below them, we'd still have Naruto and Sasuke, Neji, who are little monsters themselves. I'm telling you, it would be a beautiful mess, but I still believe Konoha would come out on top in that battle. But, however, nevertheless, in my opinion, during this attack, Obito and Orochimaru would each have their own objectives. Obito would want to capture the Nine Tails, and Orochimaru would want to capture Sasuke. So both of them would be after Naruto and Sasuke, right? I believe that in the middle of all that chaos, the two of them would use the Uchihas as a distraction, you know? And any other ninja they could get, maybe even from the Sand Village as well. Eventually, both of them might be able to capture their targets, but with those little monsters we'd have in Konoha, I think they could easily, well, maybe not that easily, right? But eventually, they would manage to get both of them back, you know? Both Sasuke and Naruto. And in that case, my friend, just imagine all those monsters. At least 9 ninjas at Hokage level would still be alive and taking part in all the events of Naruto Shippuden. Did you realize how much just one ninja staying alive could have changed the entire story of Naruto? And look, Sakumo's death was kind of an unnecessary one, right? That didn't need to happen. It wasn't him saving anyone. It wasn't some epic battle that had to take place. No. It was a death that was kind of Konoha's fault. In fact, without a doubt, he's not just any character. But tell me, young one, what did you think of my theory here? Am I right? Am I wrong? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Do you think anything would have turned out differently? I'll wrap things up here, okay? See you in the next video.